para que trasladen a compañeros que llevan las llaves de los locales.
I'm receding like a shadow when I shine on the light. I'm an animal afraid that the hand could strike. I'll stop living as a wraith this time. I'm not a slave to my wires. I'm entangled in the night. Keep on reaching for me, feeding me underneath. Keep on reaching for me, feeding me underneath.
Hey, we are back with our final introduction of a character tonight. Tonight we are doing the introduction for River Sage Holmes. We're going to introduce our last of our hunters and see what makes them tick and how they got into this somewhat. So, Jen, first, let's tell us a little about River. Like, what are they? What is their kind of backstory in the most general terms to start with?
In the most general terms, she has come from kind of a mixed bag. So she doesn't know anything about her dad's side of the family, but her mom is very much the epitome of one of those new age hippies that were very prominent in the 90s, definitely influenced by shows like Charmed. Her grandfather, her maternal grandfather, is a professor of anthropology in Michigan. And he's very by the book, very straight-laced. And obviously her mom is not. So she kind of got a blend of the two where she's very academia, but also very free-form and free-spirited.
All right. So is she a local to Houston, or did she come here for school, or?
So she came here for school. She is attending Rice University and majoring in anthropology. She is really interested to kind of try to blend what she learned from her mom and what she has learned from her grandfather. And she's really focusing on using anthropology, specifically cultural anthropology, on how cultures view the dead and how it can influence paranormal investigations.
Okay. And she kind of has some thoughts on the paranormal, you know?
Absolutely. She totally believes that it's real. She does not, however, believe that everything that gets posted about ghosts is real. So she is approaching it from a very scientific, debunking sort of attitude, where very Sherlock Holmes, like whenever you eliminate the possible, all that's left is the impossible. So more eliminating all of the things that it possibly could be, so that it is just the science.
Makes sense. Okay. And does she have, how is she doing in school? Is she a person that enjoys the process of studying? Is she just trying to get through it to get out the other end to start with the actual work?
She really likes the studying. It honestly depends on the subject, though. She kind of struggled with her gen eds class because, to be perfectly honest, she could care less about biology to an extent. She was more focused on, obviously, biological anthropology because of how humans evolved into what they are. But overall, she really did not care that the mitochondria was the powerhouse of the cell.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. So how does a normal day in the life of River go? Is she an early riser? Is she a someone who's focused on night classes and only taking things in the afternoon?
She's definitely focused more on the night.
Okay.
She takes afternoon classes mostly, and that has allowed her to be able to do things like go into the field and do field research with paranormal teams and visiting haunted locations and spooky hours. And it's quieter for her. She would much rather be able to sit up in her dorm and study by herself than have roommates coming in and out and interrupting her all the time.
That makes sense. Okay. She have a job on campus, or a job supporting herself, or is she just a full-time student?
She is a student worker. She works in the library.
Okay, it's not a bad place to kind of supplement the education, as well as pretty easygoing as far as things go.
Yes.
Rice has a pretty nice library campus, kind of situated kind of in the middle of Houston. It's an interesting campus to kind of just dump into yourself into it, from everything around it. So how do you think she feels about Houston as a whole? How long has she been here now? How far into her schooling is she?
She's a junior. So this is going to be her third year in Houston. And coming from Michigan, at first it was kind of a culture shock. Houston, like much of Texas, is very polarized. So you have some people who are very, very left wing, and then you have some that are very right wing, and there's not a lot of middle ground. She personally doesn't really care a lot about politics, but she will admit that the weather is so much better than Michigan. She's fully embraced that. She loves being able to wear shorts and crochet tops, and is not huge on going to the beach, just because the beach is kind of gross, to be perfectly honest. It's not, all that well kept. But she loves being able to watch sunsets over Houston. She's not too into the nightlife, unless she's doing it from an anthropological standpoint and people watching.
Okay. She have a good group of friends here, a couple close ones, anything like that?
She's got a couple. Most of them are from her anthropology class. She really connects more with her professors than her peers. A lot of that is probably due to her upbringing and being associated more with her grandfather than her mom. But there's a couple that she will hang out with occasionally.
Okay. And then what does she do as kind of her free time? Is she just a book person? Is she doing the urban exploring thing? Is she exploring museums? She has a real tragic video game addiction or anything like that? What is she doing when she's not focused on school or work?
When she's not focused on school or work, she does research for fun. And part of that researching is actually being part of the SCA and medieval art communities.
Okay.
So she really enjoys that aspect of it, and she enjoys using her knowledge to further studies on that, especially trying to revive some of the lost crafts that aren't done as much anymore.
Okay. So we'll start with just kind of a normal day. We'll start. This is the weekend. You don't have classes. It's summer has rolled around even. So classes are out of session. You are kind of free to work as much as you want, to do your own things. So how does your day start for you?
So my day's basically going to start closer to noon, honestly. It's nice with it being the summer because I've worked out a special deal with the university so that I can keep working at the library and still stay on campus. So I don't have to worry necessarily about trying to find a short-term lease in an apartment or anything like that. But it also means that I get a dorm completely to myself, which is nice.
So we're staying on campus in the dorm then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
wake up, kind of take a shower, get ready. We'll have music playing, definitely. She has very eclectic music tastes. It ranges anywhere from 40s bluegrass to 90s rap to heavy metal, modern to world music. She's really kind of been on a French pop kick lately. So she's been listening to that. Today she's going to choose Delta Ray, I think. to kind
Okay.
of get ready. And then probably have a shift out at the library. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that goes pretty smoothly. Now, we mentioned that you are a fan of a bunch of different musics, but another thing that we talked about was that there were certain podcasts, paranormal podcasts, investigating podcasts, that you were pretty big fans of in the past and still listen to them. Though the one we mentioned, it has been a bit since it updated, because we are looking at this being, 2025 or so now, and it's been almost 2 years since that podcast is updated for nowhere, middle of nowhere. That it was one of the ones that kind of, you said, got you into some of this study, at least.
Absolutely.
This
So the cool thing about the Middle of Nowhere podcast was that it was talking about a lot of cryptids, but it handled everything with a very journalistic approach. So it wasn't like, it didn't seem like some guy out in his camper in the middle of the desert wearing a tinfoil hat screaming at the UFOs, but it discussed a lot of things that were very interesting, and it was very well done. But part of the big mystery was kind of just that the podcaster himself just fell off the face of the earth. Travis Middle had this great following. He had this great podcast. He had things going really, really well. And then it all just kind of petered out and stopped kind of around December of 23.
Yeah, it's that last podcast that actually kind of resonates. A couple, there were some ones that came out after, but they were very obviously they were like pre-recorded ones that were kind of set up. They weren't covered. There was no like some normal stuff that happened in that podcast of paranormal events in the news and those kind of things. And this wasn't covering any of those. So it was obviously pre-recorded. But the very last one is the one that kind of stuck with you, I think, the most. And it was different than a lot of the other ones. And it really was more of a call to action and more of a personal story. Lots of people kind of didn't like it as much because it wasn't as much of the history and the kind of middle of nowhere style of thing. It was a lot more of the truth is out there. Go out there and find it. You can make a difference that way. Kind of call to action. It's very clear that something was going on. So how did that message really resonate with River?
So it was very interesting. It really pushed her to look at the idea that there is more out there. There had always been this idea in the back of her mind that the paranormal was real to an extent. But it wasn't until hearing that podcast that she really started thinking in a more academic and scholarly sort of connotation with that thinking. She started doing more research on it in her spare time, found out that she wasn't the only one thinking that. In fact, there is a class down at the University of Miami that actually focuses on the paranormal through anthropology. And it really inspired her to pursue this, not just in her spare time, but in her schooling as well. She's using this as a way not only to answer unsolved questions, which is something that Travis Middle really left the door open on for a lot of his things, but it is also something that she is using to further her own academia. So she's using it for her undergraduate thesis. She wants to develop it for a master's, maybe even a dissertation for a doctorate. She's really going all out. She really thinks there's a lot of information and that there's more out there than really meets the eye. Okay.
So we've got eyes wide open, willing to go dig into research, but not believing everything, not completely
exactly
buying every story that's it. So it's a trust but verify type mentality. We can dig at that. So
very scientific, very hypothesize and test.
So there is you've been doing some research. You've been in Houston a while. You've done some smaller things. You've gone with a couple local groups to check out like haunted spots. But you've got one that is your first kind of solo expedition type thing. Now, normally, the river is smart enough to not want to go on something by themselves. I would imagine that going into a place that you don't know is not the smartest plan. It helps that this isn't an abandoned building. There are people currently there. It's that kind of thing. But what is driving her to take this extra risk and going by herself?
So the problem with the ghost hunting scene, and I do call it a scene because it seems everybody and their dog is hunting ghosts nowadays, is that there are those who are very much using it for YouTube fame. They saw a couple of like Sam and Colby shows, or ghost adventures, and want to make a name for themselves in this industry, and they're not doing it for the satisfaction of the scientific discovery, and it's getting really frustrating. So
right, you're getting a lot of people who are entertainment first, who are even at least a couple that are embellishing what they find, or
absolutely
setting up things so it looks more impressive.
Overreacting way over the top, so
yeah,
that it seems more of a sound bite than an actual investigation.
Setting up some kind of recorder or things to set off sounds to get reaction, doing a lot of jump scare type. You got a lot of those people, and I'm guessing this doesn't sit real well with someone who's coming from a more scientific, like these are provable things mentality.
It really doesn't, because this is, River is doing this for science. She is really adamant about finding the truth and figuring out what is out there, and how what is out there can help humanity. That's what anthropology is all about, is understanding and promoting humanity. So it's really frustrating when she does this on an academic basis, and she's doing this as research, especially for her future. And Tom, Dick, and Harry over here are screaming about demons possessing a toaster. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And, you're people who are writing fiction or wanting to get famous or get their moment in the limelight to build to some kind of other career. But this is the work you want to do. This is the kind of field that you actually want to study, and people are not taking it seriously. So you're striking out on your own. But you did pick, at least you're not, there's tons of abandoned places in Houston. There's a couple hospitals and things like that are abandoned. The bayou at night is incredibly haunted from what people talk about, things like that. But this is a pretty well documented building. It is currently the Elder Street Artist Lofts, but that is what's been since 2005. But before that, originally, it was the Jefferson Davies Hospital, which was built in 1925. So it is an old hospital that has been since converted into a low-income artist lofts, and apparently supposed to be pretty haunted. So if you were preparing to go into a space like this, and you've got permission from like the building owners to come through, because they kind of feel that the publicity is not going to be bad for them to have someone come out and do something like this. So how does River prepare for going on a trek like this?
There's a couple of things that she does. So obviously she went to work and everything like that. When she gets out of work, She is actually going to take another shower. She's going to make sure that all of her soaps that she's using have no scents to them, because scent is a very strong indication, or theorize that it's a very strong indication of a haunting. You know, you have wafts of perfume when the old lady walks by and all that fun stuff. She'll dress in comfortable clothes, no nonsense business sort of attire. So she's in jeans, tennis shoes, regular t-shirt. And she's going to gather a couple of things of equipment. She doesn't go all out like some other ones. She's not doing huge fancy light sequences or anything like that. She'll have a digital recorder, and she makes sure that it has an external microphone, so that the microphone and recording doesn't pick up the internal mechanisms of the recorder itself. She has a pen light that is a laser grid, so she can see if shadows are moving through a dark room. And just a standalone recording camera that's going to be on a tripod. That's pretty much all she's doing. That, and she'll have her like a notebook with her, so that she can write down any findings or things that she encounters, or timestamps that she can refer back to.
Sounds good. Now, does River have her own vehicle? Is she living on campus and working on campus? Does she public transport? Is she? I would imagine she has her own if she moved down here from Michigan, but
she does. She has a beat up old Camry that she lovingly refers to as Beulah.
It works. It's getting
an
you
old,
through the day.
Old car with an old lady name, and it's Beulah is very reliable. It is. She is a faded brown, and has next to no clear coat left on her.
Right.
But good gas mileage gets her from point A to point B.
Yeah, it's no longer getting salt eaten from the bottom up. So, so make her way across town from Rice to where these artist lofts are. And like most things in Houston, it's a bit of a drive, but not the worst. It could definitely be could be worse. You're going a bit later in the evening. You're not fighting rush hour or anything like that. And it's about, both are downtown. Both are inner loop, as it were. So it's only about a 20-minute drive. So it's not bad. That's might as well be next door as far as Houston driving and trips go. As she pulls up this building is a 4-story brick edifice of a building. It is an imposing structure. So how does she start her investigation? What is the first thing she does when she gets there?
So part of the investigation would have been researching hotspots. So where the ghosts are most likely supposedly appearing. She'd have researched the history of it and then kind of mapped it out from there. She would have been, since management really is gung-ho about this sort of thing, she would also have been in contact with them, like which units are open that she can investigate, and she would start there. So she'd basically pick the most likely place and kind of just set up there in the one apartment.
Yeah. So there are 24 units in the building now. But from the history of this building that it was, before it was loft, it was abandoned for a while. Before that, it was used by the city for different things. Then before that, it was this hospital. And then the ground it's sitting on actually was the municipal cemetery for about 100 years, 1840 to about 1930 or so, when the hospital was there. And during that time, it replaced the old city cemetery, but it is the resting place for Confederate soldiers, former slaves, thousands of victims for yellow fever and cholera epidemics that tore through Houston during that time. So there is a lot of death involved in this before it was a hospital or anything else. So we're going to start on the outside of the building. It's just this big brick edifice. You can kind of walk in. There's like a little lobby space where mailboxes are. And you know one of the apartments on the ground floor is open and ready for you.
So that's going to be where she kind of starts. She will go in there into the apartment. Obviously, she'll call out first, make sure no one's actually in the apartment, ready to jump out and scare her and ruin the experiments. And then she'll do kind of a base sweep. So I'd forgotten to mention these earlier. She would also have EMF and temperature thermometer.
Yeah.
She'd do a base sweep, kind of get a good level on where things are at currently, and then set up the camera, the grid light, and then just kind of take a seat and turn the recorder on and be quiet for a bit to see if anything happens, and then probably start asking questions to see if she could get responses.
Yeah. No, it's not. The building sits a little strangely. You know that there is what they refer to as the basement, but the basement is not below ground. You know that when they built this place, they didn't want to. They didn't want to scare people that they were digging a bunch of graves or disturbing things or building a basement into a graveyard. So it's above ground is this basement area. So you're lifted up. You're essentially on a second floor, this first floor of this apartment. And it's not the most quiet. It's in the middle of the city. There's normal city noise. And even though the walls are brick and heavy, you know, it's Houston in the summer. The building is warm. So air conditioners are running constantly to try and fight back that heat. And even with thick walls to keep out some of that heat and keep some of that sound out, you're still getting some of that. But you settle in, and the kind of quiet of the apartment and what you've come here to experience starts to settle on you. How do you think that River does with silence and with waiting?
If she was not doing something for an experiment, I think she would have a lot more trouble with it. She doesn't like silence. But it's different when she's doing this sort of thing, because if there's not silence, it means something's happening. So she is listening for clues or for very quiet things. And that takes most of her concentration. So she doesn't have to necessarily worry about the fact that it's quiet. She's more focusing on the possibility of sound, if that makes sense.
Okay. And you know, it's this sits in what is the 6th ward of Houston, which is not the most peaceful of places. It's downtown. It's kind of in the middle of the city. So you get sirens that go by every once in a while, ambulances, cop cars, those sorts of things. But all of that fades away the longer you're sitting here and you're able to focus on this silence. And it falls and it's heavy. You know, you can faintly hear other people in the building. You can hear a TV or conversation, but even those seem to fade away. You still hear conversation, but nothing else really. What is your first thing when you start moving into asking questions and doing more than just observing? What is the first thing that the River does?
River's going to start by every time there is a sound that is obviously man-made, whether it's a siren or TV or people talking, she'll speak out loud and note it for the recorder, like, hey, this wasn't paranormal, I heard it. But as it gets quieter and as the silence gets heavier, she is going to become less focused on sound alone and be looking more around her, especially at the grid that she's got set up, to see if she can see movements or anything like that. And she'll start asking general questions like, you know, what's your name? how long have you been here? She's going to avoid questions about death, really. One of the theories that is out there is that ghosts don't know that they're dead. So one of the things that she's ruling out is this whatever haunting, is that intelligent haunting? Is it residual? Is it, something that's just kind of on repeat? Or is there more to it than that? So she'll ask the questions, and then she'll sit in silence for a couple of minutes, and then she'll ask another follow-up question. And kind of just go along those lines.
Okay. And you've got other people that have come through this building. You're not the first person to come to exploration here. That back in 2003, before it was converted into lofts, some people came for ghost hunting and were actually robbed at gunpoint here by people who were squatting in the building. It's much better. It's that this building set abandoned from since the early 90s to the 2000s. So there's 10 or 15 years in there where it was just an abandoned building that people used for everything that an abandoned building is used for. The teenagers making out with each other and doing drinking and things like that. The unhoused population of Houston was using it for different things. Those looking for a place to do any number of illicit activities found this as a welcome refuge for that. But it wasn't until much later that it was kind of repaired and back into this state. And now it's an artist loft, and the people here are creatives, and there's much more life in the area. But as you sit here in the silence and you talk to, nothing seems to be responding at first. Time goes by a little bit farther, and you hear more active conversation outside of the apartment you're in. You can't quite make it out, but it seems to be less conversation and more arguments going on. That kind of tone and that intensity kind of rising and falling in waves. How does River deal with that kind of? It's not close enough to be worried about it yet, but it's definitely something happening.
So it may not necessarily be something that can be worrisome, but it's noticeable enough that she knows that it would contaminate anything that she did find. So she's going to note the time and say, we've got something going on. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording here. We'll see if we can pick it back up later. And she will end the recording and go and see if she can find where it's coming from.
Yeah. She kind of hear this raising voices and what sounds like some kind of an argument. There's a loud snap sound, which you've been around enough to know that sounded like possibly a handgun, something like that firing off inside the building. And at the same moment that EMF meter that you have with you spikes in activity.
Okay. Well, at that point, River is going to kind of stare at the EMF meter and go, oh yeah, sure. Now you're going to show up. Before she goes, and she will peek her head out the apartment into the hallway to see if she can hear anything regarding panic voices or anything to show which direction that might be coming from.
All right. How does River react to sudden changes or things she can't explain?
Cautiously. She a lot of it is she will kind of pause. And
we're not running off into the woods to check sounds or
no.
Okay.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
That's
we're going to get a chance to see how River responds to something unexpected when she opens that door. when you came through, everything was clean and modern in here. A little bit dated, a couple of years dated, but nothing too bad. When you open that door, the hallway on the other side is, you know, late 80s tile. It's graffiti on the walls, trash in the corners. It is not the hallway that you came in before.
River is going to stare at the hallway for a moment, kind of look up and down, and then she's going to carefully close the door again, wait about 10 seconds, and then reopen the door as if that's like a reset button to see if things are back the way they were.
That hallway is the same. It's you've kind of got the late evening or late afternoon, early evening light streaming through windows, and you can hear more sounds of the city have faded away, but sounds in the building seem to be loud. There's wind sound from somewhere, like a broken window, and that there's standing water from rain in this hallway that shouldn't have been there. You just came through this hallway a couple hours ago, and it was clean, it was up to date, and this is old.
At that, River is going to actually go back into the apartment and get the small camera. Turn it back on. Turn on the recorder.
Yeah, as you turn around back into the apartment looks like the hallway now. Those windows that were just closed before are now boarded over. The glass broken. The plaster peeling on the walls. There is trash in the corners. Someone has been here at some point. All the fixtures are gone. And for everything you can tell, you are in an abandoned building.
Excellent. Does she still have the recorder in her hand?
Yeah, all your stuff is fine. They're a weird beacon of modern stuff in the middle of this. Like there's piles of like desks and gurneys like in one corner where stuff has been pushed into a corner. Like a pile of like old mattresses in another.
Excellent. She is going to go ahead and she'll take that camera, kind of looking around the apartment again. Turn on the recorder. She'll leave the tripod there so that the camera is handheld. She says, all right, we appear to have stumbled into some sort of temporal anomaly, physics thing, string theory. I don't know. I don't study that. But welcome to Silent Hill, everybody. Let's go see what is going on. And she is going to keep everything on and then leave the apartment and see if she can kind of find what the hell's going on.
Yeah, you kind of make your way back down that hallway, and each of these apartments now, the doors are pushed open and they just kind of yawn open. These almost doors to tombs is what it seems like for a moment. They're pitch black, and there's just these kind of empty doorways into nothingness, and the hallway leads back to that main kind of entrance where you came in before. And it's much like the rest of the building. But from here you have some options. There are stairs going up. There are stairs going down. The front door is gone and is completely boarded over.
Where does it sound like those yelling voices are coming from?
The voices, you moving through the building, it doesn't seem like you're getting any closer to them. They seem to be coming from downstairs, upstairs, farther into the building, but nothing close by.
River is going to stand at the stairs a moment, and she's going to look up, and she's going to look down, and then she's actually going to call out. She's just going to say, hello? Anybody there?
Oh, no response.
All right. Well, let's think about this logically. In an illogical situation, so I'm not sure time travel is real, but here we are. So, if this is now an abandoned building and everything's boarded up, if we go upstairs, the odds of the floor being rotted are much higher. If we go downstairs, we don't necessarily have to worry about the floor rotting, but we have to worry about the whole building collapsing on us. So, which one is most likely to get us killed?
Things you also know is that the second floor, during different times and different use of this building, second floor was some of the nurses' quarters who stayed on staff. And the basement was storage, but also the morgue.
Excellent. Downstairs it is.
As you descend these stairs, the air around you gets colder as you're not going underground. As we said, this building doesn't have a subterranean basement, but it feels like you are. The air gets colder and damper. You can feel it kind of heavy on you. Cobwebs that brush against you, but are not. You can't get rid of them. Seem to get you. And it's here that you kind of round the corner and it's dark. As you go down here, there's even less light than there was before. But you said you have some flashlights and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. It says you're using one of these and kind of as you turn the corner down these stairs and enter the basement of this records rooms and stuff like that. Your flashlight flickers and cuts out for a second. And when it comes back, the tile is still old. It's an older style, but it looks like it's well kept. The floor is clean. And lights light the hallways down here. And there's the sound of, a boiler working, of things like that, of sounds of life in this building that weren't here a bit ago. This looks like well maintained and cared for, if aging. It doesn't seem to be the working hospital that it was at one point. It's not the abandoned building. It's during that kind of middle period when it was used by a bunch of different city things. There was some nursing schools that went on here. It was used for storage, a community clinic at one point, things like that. But down here, this seems to be medicinal record storage and also some equipment storage.
Is there anything nearby that may have something of a date? Like, is there a calendar on the wall or like a newspaper laying around, anything like that?
Yeah, there's a calendar, like a little desk calendar on the little desk there by when you come down the stairs, whether that's that's kind of an entryway or greeting way. It didn't make a whole lot of sense for it to be here, but it's there. And the calendar proudly says the same day is June, is the 23rd, but it says 1957. And you can hear music playing.
Okay. 1957. Well, JFK hasn't happened yet. That's good. Stephen King has nothing on this. So she's going to follow and see if she can find that music, where that music is coming from.
Go deeper into this basement, and you're going down towards You can see the old signs that talk about the morgue, but there's like newer signage that's been hung for like record storage and stuff like that. And it's out of one of these storage rooms across from these bathrooms that are in the basement, that you hear the music coming. And as you are about to kind of get in, you're approaching that door pushes open and a woman steps out. How do you react to sudden appearance of a person? You haven't really seen anyone so far.
I think River's first reaction is going to be kind of freeze in her flight or freeze reaction time. So she's going to freeze for a second, staring at this woman, and then try to stammer out something that sounds realistic. Because sure, we're time traveling. This is totally real. Let's go with the flow, and we will do like they do in the TV shows. And she's gonna say, "Hi, I'm with the college, and I was looking for some information."
She doesn't even seem to see you, and she walks right through you.
Okay.
She's walking to those bathrooms that are kind of behind you, and she walks through that door, pushes open, and closes behind her. It's just this wash of cold. Your EMF, every sensor on you that would detect something is spiking and throwing a fit. This wave of cold has just blown over you.
Okay. Well, for the record, so we seem to have fallen into a sort of, not necessarily temporal rift, because nothing seems to be reacting to us. This is kind of like the others, where maybe I'm the ghost. Am I the ghost? Would I be the ghost?
Would you know?
Would I know?
Yeah, as you said, ghosts don't always know that they're dead.
Oh my God, that's it. That's the last time I'm eating at that taco truck. All right. Well, she's going to go into the room that the woman just left.
Yeah, you walk into it's a records room. It's full of file cabinets. It's full of paper records for the hospital and medical centers all over Houston, along with the nursing school and things like that.
She's going to start kind of trying to look through some of these records, especially the nursing records. Well, the woman who passed her, was she
a nurse? You very clearly
was
dressed as a nurse for the time period that you seem to have found yourself in, or at least are seeing at the moment.
Okay. She actually is going to start seeing if she can look through some of these newer records here.
Okay.
Newer quotation records. To see if there's a name or like a picture of one where she can put a name to the woman that she saw.
Yeah, there's not really any pictures. There's just lots of medical records and hospital records. This is being used as kind of a dumping ground for the city as a whole. If they've moved beyond this as it being a actual hospital, but it's just a building as more of a dumping ground. So none of this is even current. This is patient records and paperwork, and someone is sorting through it and seems to be trying to make some heads or tails of it, but it's hard for you to even parse some of it. Not because it's difficult or you're not knowledgeable or not intelligent. It's just like you read a line and immediately it doesn't stick. You kind of you find yourself reading the same thing over and over again, because like you can't focus, you can't remember what it is. It doesn't stick in your head.
Okay. Is there anything, obviously this is going to be a record storage room. Is there, if this nurse was trying to sort through things, Is there like a desk or a workstation that
there's like a desk that she was sitting at. That there's the stacks of papers that seem to be like you interrupted something someone in the middle of something, like they stepped away. Like there's an ashtray on the desk with a cigarette burning in it.
Ah, the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay, she's gonna go over to that desk. Is there anything there that might indicate a name of the woman? Like if she's got a name badge or something of that, like a placard with her name on the desk, like a secretary's desk might have. Or she would also kind of skim what is going on there on the desk and see if anything actually does stick.
Not really. Like it's a lot of whether she is looking for something or is being shipped boxes of medical records out of storage in one place and she's trying to sort through them. That seems to be more what she's doing. And it's not like an investigative or anything like that. It seems like someone has given her the task of organize these boxes so that we know what we can get rid of. So there's piles of things that are like paid bills and paperwork that obviously doesn't need to be kept anymore. That's in a pile that's like trashed and stuff like that. There's medical records that are somewhat new that seem to be sorted, and that seems to be what she's doing.
Okay. So River would have done research before coming to the building tonight. Is there anything about this date that would have stuck out?
Not so much the date. You know that from the late 30s to the end of the 80s, this building was used by a lot of different things. It was, as we had talked about, was a drug treatment center, a storage facility for the county. They did food stamps distribution out of here. They homed juvenile delinquents here for a while. It's a big building owned by the city, and they've used it for lots of things. So you're pretty sure you're during this period when it was just a storage facility. There's no like medical practice here. So that this person is a nurse is kind of seems like she's got the short end of the straw, that she's doing like pretty grunt work, like secretarial filing. So you don't know who. Kind of guess that she maybe pissed someone off somewhere to be banished to the storage annex, essentially.
Okay, so nothing like that would stick out. Is there any kind of urban legend associated with something happening in the 50s? Like most haunted locations are going to have like, this janitor hung himself with a meat hook off of, the clock tower or something along those lines.
Not really. You get a lot of like stories of we saw a woman figure and she disappeared, like nurses that disappeared or things like that. You've got a lot of, hey, the fire alarm went off and dogs wouldn't go in the building, like the police dogs wouldn't go in the building. There is a lot of rumors because where this is the Jefferson Davis thing, and there's Jefferson Davis building, and then there's Jefferson Davis Hospital, who are two separate buildings. One of them was a mental asylum for a while. It's not this building, but there's rumors of that. People conflating the two. There's stories of, that they didn't dig up they didn't move any of the graves when they built this building. That there are apparently black earth graves from like English colonies from the 1600s here. So there's lots of stuff like that. There's thousands and thousands of bodies buried in the grounds of this building. So there's lots of spooky stories of ghosts but nothing really that relates to the 50s. Just seems to be during a time, where this was being used in this way.
All right. Well, River is going to go ahead and try to leave the room and see if she can follow where the woman went.
The woman went to a bathroom, and when you go in there, there's no one there. It's like the lingering smell of cigarette smoke, but but there's no one here.
Right. And there doesn't appear to be anybody else down here.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bet $10 that if we go up the stairs, we're going to be back in Silent Hill. Who wants to take that bet? Anybody? Anybody?
No one seems to answer.
And she'll go ahead and she'll start making for the stairs to go back upstairs to the landing.
Start heading up the stairs. There's more sound of activity above you, and you walk into a bustling hospital. There are patients, there are nurses, there are doctors, they're moving as this is a working hospital.
So that would put it in what, the 30s, 40s?
The 20s and 30s, yeah.
20s and 30s, okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone seem to notice her?
No.
Okay.
No one seems to notice you. No one seems to know. They seem to be going about their day. They're not avoiding you. They don't seem to notice. You're getting walked through pretty consistently because you don't exist, it seems, from their point of view.
So River's going to stay there for a moment, and she's going to kind of people watch all this bustling happening.
Yeah. And while it's disconcerting to have someone walk towards you and through you when you can kind of expect it, the first person that walks from behind you and steps through you as a surprise, how does River kind of react to that?
She's going to kind of yelp a little bit and jump, and then kind of just shake her head and be like, man, Nicole Kidman had nothing on this. And she'll continue to like talk out loud, make, visual observations into the recording, and see if anything really happens outside of this.
No.
Anything that might be out of the ordinary.
Kind of back in a hospital like lobby, like waiting room. There's some places for people to be. There's people moving around. There's the kind of doors leading out of the building are open again, and you can tell that the sun is very close to setting. The sky is starting to darken out there. This seems to just be a pretty active, summer evening at this hospital.
Okay. So this would be River talking out loud and speculating to herself.
Mm-hmm.
If I go upstairs, am I going to be in the Civil War hospital? Let's find out, boys and girls. And she's going to start going upstairs to the second floor.
Yeah, as you go up those stairs, you lose the light again somehow. It doesn't make sense. And you kind of step through a doorway at the top of the stairs, and you've stepped out of a mausoleum. You're outside, and it's nighttime.
River's going to turn around to see if the hospital is still behind her.
No.
Oh, I don't like that.
There's just the closed door of a mausoleum behind you, and there is a cemetery that stretches out in every direction.
Oh, okay.
Night has fallen. There's no sounds of the city. What you do get are fireflies, sounds of insect activity, bird calls, and song. Someone singing.
Male or female?
It's a collection of people.
Oh boy. Okay. Is it in creepy Latin?
No, it's in English.
Is it
you can
creepy
no.
church chant?
This seems to be like a work song of some sort. You can see there's a group of people off in the distance, and that's where the song is coming from. As people seem to be working late at night. You kind of hear the shovels hitting the ground of people digging and doing physical activity.
Okay, well, either there's a fresh body that's being buried, or they're a singing group of grave robbers. And she's going to go ahead and start heading towards the singing.
Yeah. And you notice around you, the cemetery is ill kept. Like it's overgrown. It's, stone is covered in moss. The plants are overgrown. The pathways are not well tended. And as you draw closer and closer to where these voices are coming, it's becoming more well kept. And you hear that sound of that shovel digging. It's rhythmic. You hear people singing a work song. As you get closer and closer to this grave digging crew that is digging not a single grave, not even a handful of graves, but dozens of graves. People are digging graves in mass.
Okay, so if they are digging graves in mass, that means this is either part of the Civil War cemetery, or this would be part of one of the flu or cholera ones. In looking at the clothes of the workers, can she pinpoint about the era where this might be taking place?
Thinking more the color academics. It's not Civil War. It's not quite that old, but that time period, people who'd be doing grave digging at night are going to be wearing similar things through that whole time period. They're not the most prosperous people. And fashion during that time is pretty consistent all through the late 1800s into the early 1900s. Things didn't change too much for the working men, especially those who are doing this kind of level of physical activity. Now, would you say that River is a physically active type person?
Oh God, no.
Are they a clumsy person? You said they did SEA stuff, but you said it was more of the craft stuff. So They might be good with their hands, but they're not running and jumping or doing any physical activity of that direction, correct?
Not usually, no. She's done a little bit, like she's dabbled a little bit in the martial things. Probably more with thrown weapons than with heavy fighting and things like that. So I would say that for the most part, she's not going to break her leg on a tree stump or something like that.
Right.
But she's definitely not going to be a power lifter.
But if someone, if she was physically pushed, she's not the most dodging an attack kind of a person. She's probably going to get pushed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Something makes contact with you and you find yourself falling, and you don't fall to the ground because you fall farther than that. You have found yourself in the bottom of one of these graves.
I think at that point, all sense of scientific inquiry and composure is going to evaporate. And
you are flat on your back staring up at this grave.
Is there anyone leaning over the edge?
No, but you really quickly realize that you are in a pine box and the lid slams shut over you.
Yeah, no, there's no more composure at that point. She is going to start screaming and yelling. She's pounding on the pine box and
you
doing
hear
everything that she can.
Dirt landing on the top of the box, but you pounding on that thing, that rhythmic bang on the thing. It starts to not sound like it's coming from your hands, and that's when you wake up. You are in that apartment still. Your recordings are all still running, and someone is pounding on the door, trying to get your attention.
River is going to kind of shake herself a bit and get to her feet rather shakily.
Mm-hmm.
And she will go and she will open the door.
Yeah, it's one of the guys works for the building who you've talked to, and he seems very confused on why you're still here, because it's the next morning. You were supposed to be only here that night. So when they found the door like locked and he started banging on it, that's when he kind of woke you up here.
My apologies. I just wanted to be really thorough. We had some interesting things go on. So just making sure I saw it through to the end. I will pack up and I will be out of here shortly.
Yeah, and he's kind of grumbling about college students or whatever, but kind of make sure that you didn't mess up the place or anything. And you can really get your stuff, all your equipment gathered up, and kind of get out of there. And it's there that you get everything gathered up. You're back to your car, you're back to your dorm room when you finally can take a moment to look through things. And your recorder ran that whole time. You have your full, everything you were talking about is on this recorder. And the sounds that were heard are on that recorder. With the end of that, it ends with the singing and the digging sounds and the scramble of you falling and banging, and that's kind of how that recording dies off. So how is River dealing with this everything?
I think on the drive back to the dorm room, she is really trying to rationalize with herself. Like, okay, They woke you up. Therefore, you were obviously sleeping. This may have been a dream. You did a lot of research. The mind does weird things. You're in a spooky place by yourself. Obviously, your imagination is going to run away with you.
Right.
And then when she gets to the dorm and she's listening to the recording, I think it is going to really shake her, because it's legitimate proof that what she experienced was actually what she experienced, and it wasn't just a trick of her mind. And at that point, I think what she is going to do is she's going to start a physical exam of herself and look for things like, is there dirt in her clothes? Is there dirt in her hair? Did her fingernails have scrapes from the pine box? Any sort of other physical evidence that there could be to help tie
everything physically on you is normal. You don't have dirt or anything. You don't have grave dirt on you. You don't have you have your fingernails messed up from trying to tear at this box. There's nothing there. You're not bruised from falling into a grave, which should have left you with some injuries. You don't even feel stiff, but that's more like you seem like you fell asleep sitting on the floor of an apartment, more than anything else. And as you've got this proof and you've kind of gone through that, you kind of struggling with that. I think you're going to eventually get some actual sleep, because you've been running around and doing a bunch of stuff, and the night has passed. So it's whenever you wake up next, whenever you go to leave your dorm room next, is when you find a card has been slid under your door. It's a business card of sorts. It's red, the black rabbit face on one side, and on the other, what you saw was real, and a time and place. And with that, we'll end our introduction to River Holmes, and continue on. We'll pick up when we get to have all of our characters together, which should be sometime next month. Get them all together, and we'll see who has been inviting them somewhere, what these rabbits have to do, and where their next adventures into the paranormal are. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.